We'll deal with the pictures at the end of her segment. Belinda, what's the story with these gas stoves and these new restrictions? You libby libs are going to take my gas stove away? Is that what's happening?
Oh, man, it is so crazy. I mean, these rabid right-wing, Republicans who just have to grab onto something, anything, because they're not actually, putting forward policy to help us. And they're, going nuts about the gas stove thing. So let me just walk you through what happened. So last month, the CPSC, so they're the Consumer Product Safety Commission, said, and I'm going to use quote marks, you can't see them because I can't use my hands because I'm not visual, but they were considering a ban on gas stoves. And that would just be, in new construction, not the gas stove you already had. So they were considering this ban, or they were also considering standards around the toxic fumes that come out of gas stoves. So as we know, a gas stove is using natural gas. That's methane. Methane is 24 times more powerful over its lifetime than carbon dioxide at heating up the atmosphere. And just so you know, everybody, your gas stove, even when you're not using it, when there's no flame, there is methane leaking into your house. When you are burning a gas burner, you are creating carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, both of which are linked to cardiovascular and respiratory illnesses. You're also having formaldehyde and fine particulate matter leaking out into the house that you live in, and you breathe that air, and so do your children. And the children here is a really important part. So what then happened was, we're always, scientists are coming up with, more and more facts on indoor air pollution. And the EPA, has the Clean Air Act, which is really great. And it has these standards for outdoor, say, nitrogen dioxide, which you're creating with your gas stove. But they don't have any jurisdiction on indoor air pollution. And the nitrogen dioxide that your gas stove is creating is way, way, way in excess of what the EPA deems, okay for outdoor air pollution. So we're actually living with all this indoor air pollution. Cut to last week, this new research came out saying, hey, 13% of childhood, almost 12.7, I'm just rounding it up to 13% of childhood asthma is directly linked to gas stoves, and that is equivalent to children who end up with asthma because of the secondhand tobacco smoke they live around, which researchers found absolutely eye-popping. So then there were stories again at the beginning of the week about the CPSC, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, saying, hey, we really need to look at some sort of regulation on these gas stoves. They had to walk that back yesterday to say, we're not going to, to ban it or take your gas stoves away. We're not coming for them, because there was this, really kind of crazy reaction on the right that, Democrats are going to overregulate. Biden's going to be knocking on the door asking for your gas stove. And that's not what's happening. It's just there's all this awareness, and Biden, and the EPA and his administration do really want to deal with pollution because it's linked to so many diseases. I mean, they're saying that, toddlers have got, illnesses when they're young, just from what they're exposed to in utero by the mother being exposed to air pollution.
It's a fact. Gas stoves, when they click on, start spilling out pure natural gas, which is really just methane, is what Belinda's saying. It's the world's second most problematic greenhouse gas. Once the burner's on, there are other pollutants accumulating in your kitchen. Again, I'm essentially reiterating what Belinda's just told us, but I'm wanting to reiterate it because it's really quite important. The thing that's being eliminated here, or at least being stemmed, is really bad. It's these pollutants are accumulating in the kitchen: carbon monoxide, formaldehyde, and this nitrogen dioxide that Belinda talks about. And that causes all these cardiovascular problems and respiratory diseases, and there are carcinogens involved. So what they're talking about is not banning gas, okay? Everybody who's going, oh, never take my gas stove over my dead body, dude. I get it. I see you. Oh, everybody goes electric, well, that's going to be on the grid. They're talking about other ways to manage those indoor pollutants, right, Belinda? Like there'll be regulations concerning the hoods, concerning the exhaust fans that are associated with kitchens. In other words, different ways in which those indoor pollutants, which we now know because science evolves every year and we know more, we now know cause cancer, cause the respiratory illnesses, cause cardiovascular diseases. We now know that those exhaust fans will be able to take this stuff and maybe eliminate it or reduce it from these indoor environments. Isn't that kind of what we're saying?
Well, yeah, those would be regulations to mitigate it. But, in the, we talked about this already on the show, in the Inflation Reduction Act, there are going to be all these rebates for people who change to heat pumps rather than using natural gas to heat their homes. And the federal government, the Biden administration is going to help you if you want to install solar. And at the end of this year, they're also going to give you an $842 rebate if you decide that you want to change out your gas stove for an induction stove. And, look, we don't like change as a species. We're really, we hate it. We're not into it, but we did move off coal, and we moved to electricity, and, that was good for our, health. And, what scientists and everyone says, and it's the same with, fossil fuels, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And so, we are going to, make these changes. And, the thing about gas stoves is what places that are dealing with this issue. I mean, look, the governor of New York wants, gas banned in all, new construction. But so far, it's kind of been city by city, like, Los Angeles, different cities in Santa Cruz here in California, New York, and it's about new construction, and it's happening slowly. It's not just, everybody has to get rid of the gas stove. And the fact that there will be, federal help to do it. But, what's really amazing to me, Mark, is that, this is about our kids. Our kids are being subjected to this barrage of toxic pollutants. And here we have a chance, and science is telling us, hey, we just discovered this thing. And, it's like what the tobacco industry did when it really became clear and they couldn't hide it anymore. They knew that it was giving people lung cancer, but they were, obfuscating, all that information, not letting it get out, still, creating advertisements where it made smoking look super glamorous and cool. I mean, the gas industry is using influencers and chefs, on TikTok to say how great cooking with gas is. And they've been, touting it as this amazing, cooking experience since the 30s. I just actually tweeted, and I, tweeted it to you too, Mark, about this young TikToker who uses induction stoves, which he learned about when he was in China. And he says, look, I love them, and they don't heat up the kitchen the way a gas stove does, as well as helping the environment. Look, 29% of greenhouse gases in the US come from buildings. Worldwide, it's 40%. We are going to deal with these things. And, it's, the science is, sort of is speaking volumes. And the thing about kids, I just have to say this, because the other night I watched 13 Lives, which is it's the Ron Howard movie about the soccer players who were trapped with their coach, the 13 people
it's brilliant.
Who were trapped.
It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah. 13 Lives, it's called. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, 13 Lives. And you watch, and the thing that really I sat with afterwards, and it just, I couldn't get over it. This is 5,000 people from 17 different countries come together to save these boys and their coach. And what an incredible effort. And look at, humanity when we're on our best behavior and we come together for, a cause and to save lives. And here we have this thing to save lives that, but it's about, our stoves, and it's about changing our mindsets and how we do things. And, we have to make reality our friend. Climate change is here. We're heating up the atmosphere. We're heating up the ocean. We're making the planet unlivable. If you can take steps to ameliorate that, to mitigate that, why wouldn't you? And if you have a way to have less pollutants inside your own house, and you can afford it, or you can use the monies that the federal government will, provide for you to do it, why wouldn't you, is my question.
Yeah, it's as I was saying, as we learn more about those things that harm us and the ways they harm us, don't you want to eliminate those things or reduce those things in the environment? I thought smoking is a really good example that you gave. I see in the chat things like, hey, before you handle this stuff, why don't you do drug use and crime and mental illness and homelessness? And then, this is sort of an awkward time to bring this up, don't you think? No, I don't think. I think these are all things that happen in society, and you can handle all society's problems at one time. You want to wait until we solve homelessness before we eliminate the cancer-causing stuff in your house that's going to have you on chemo in 6 months? You want to wait, though, until we solve the homelessness thing? I get angry about this stuff because I think this is the crap where we kick the can down the road. These are all just excuses not to address these very serious things that are going on right in our house. Look, I love my gas stove, but I now see these revelations about what it's doing. The same thing you talked about, Belinda, with those nonstick, the Teflon type products where there's a nonstick products, and you find out that there's all of this stuff with the plastic stuff that is, we are being carpet bombed, our bodies are, with these carcinogens and things that are bad for us. All I'm trying to do is reduce the bombing a little bit and hoping for that. And so I think these conversations are very much appropriate, and especially when you point to the next generation as you have. I think it's all super important.
Yeah, I mean, when it's our kids and it's about asthma, I mean, it's just such, a no-brainer, I think, I mean, and I've said this before on the show, I have been wanting to change to an induction stove. I had a beautiful vintage gas stove. And when I got cancer, I was like, okay, that's it. With that gas stove is going, and we're getting an induction. And I love cooking on it. It's as responsive as gas. It's fantastic. And, I just, that was a thing that was within my power to eliminate. And I do get it. There are a lot of things right now that we're being bombarded with, and it can feel overwhelming. But what I would say is, just, deal with the one thing at a time. And I love the person in the chat who said, we can chew gum and walk, rub our tummies, pat our heads. We can actually do all that stuff at the same time. But, choose what it is that is your issue and what you care about, what you've got control over. Take bite-sized bits and deal with the problems, because, I mean, we have agency, in our lives. So, and over what issues we're going to respond to. I'm not saying everybody has to do this, but it's all information. And, the science is just overwhelming, right now. So,
well, the science is overwhelming about so many things that threaten our existence. And I just feel as though at some point, let's try to take some measures to address that science. But the politicization of this is, it's become it's a culture war issue. They're going to take away your stoves, all this sort of thing. And by the way, someone in the chat said, if you pay me to get a new stove, maybe I'll do it. Well, they will pay you to do get a new stove. So you may want to look into that. In other words, that is part of the program. The government program will pay you close to $1,000 to get a new stove. So for me, and I have this problem in my house, so I got to wrap up too, but I'd like to try to include a little personal anecdote. Courtney likes to cook in the kitchen, and I always am opening the windows because we don't have very good ventilation in the kitchen. And I know because I've read a bunch of this stuff about gas stoves and the methane and the formaldehyde and all the other stuff. I know what that stuff's doing. And I've got air filters on in the house, and trying to get that stuff out. But you need to at least ventilate your place. My listeners and viewers, in the short term, ventilate that kitchen because that stuff really will harm you and maybe kill you. Okay, so just leaving all the government stuff and the politics aside, I'd love for you all who are part of this show to at least be aware of that. Belinda, I got to move along. I'm sorry. I say I'm sorry. I think we've spent a good chunk of time on this, but I always feel like I could speak with you longer. You just have such great stuff. But you'll be with us next Thursday, right?
I think so. I might be in Death Valley, but I will let you know. I want to be. I do.
There are no cell towers in Death Valley? Come on. I mean, are you committed to this show or not? Let's get on it.
Why are you yelling?
My technology was letting me down today, and I was just upstairs, near a router, and had to come, sit on top of the one down here to make sure you could hear me.
Well, bring a router, bring a thing. We want to talk to you. Thank you for being with us. Belinda Waymouth, everybody. Love it.
Pleasure. Bye.
All right.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
We do, and we have a way of doing things around here. So, hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.